I'm joined by today. Honestly, I don't really think he needs an introduction. But if I was to give a very personal one, he's been very dear, not just to me, but to Filme Shilmy since the very beginning. And uh, the warmth that he's always displayed, and I think the kindness that he has really seeped in with the sort of roles he does, even in the larger than life heroic ones. And that is, of course, the one and only John Abraham. So, John Abraham, thank you so much for joining us on Filme Shilmy. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Anuj. I'm just very happy being here. There are very few people that you know, speak with. It's common knowledge, but you're one of those very few people. I speak to some other people, but grudgingly. But with you, it's not at all grudgingly. I'm very happy to be here.
Oh, honestly, I feel so grateful, John. Honestly, I mean, you know how special you are to me, and of course to Filme Shilmy as well. So it really
I'm
is
going
our
to have some chai whilst I'm talking to you.
please. I love it. Please do, please do, please do.
Yeah.
Um, look, all right. So I've got to start. The Diplomat. I read up a lot about the Diplomat, and I think the character that you're playing, it's a very unsung hero in many ways. The sort of incident that it's inspired by, I believe, took place in 2017. Um, and I think it's very fascinating as a concept as an actor as well, because number one, you're sort of there managing the sort of diplomacy side, the international diplomacy side, but at the same time, you're also aware of a very ghastly incident that's taken place. Um, so I think for you as an actor, to compartmentalize and to kind of then also balance both those aspects, the diplomacy side as well as the sort of human emotional side, how tricky was that balancing for you in this film?
Uh, Anuj, could I take you back a bit
Yes.
with my answer? So, one of the reasons I did Diplomat, I'd like to start with that. One of the reasons I picked up the script was because I thought it was one of the most intriguing scripts that I have read. So, in my books, so I was very happy reading it. Growing up, I was very influenced by the kind of choices George Clooney made, by the kind of choices Ben Affleck made. Those really intelligent, if I may say so, choices like The Ides of March or Argo, etc. And I believe that whilst we have a cinema that's larger than life, which I love being a part of, trust me, I love it. Like I love Pathaan and I love being a part of Pathaan.
Mm,
I think there is also a side of me that loves the space where it makes the audience think. And I would hope, and I'm not staking any claims here, I would hope Diplomat does the job of making the audience think about, now to answer your question about what is diplomacy and what does a diplomat really do. And so we had challenges in marketing this film or making people understand what really diplomacy is.
mm,
Um, so whilst I was shooting, also, I followed the brief of my director. I met JP Singh, the character I'm playing. In fact, I spoke with him yesterday.
oh
I
wow.
must tell you, JP Singh was heading the Islamabad desk um, of the Indian Embassy when this incident happened in 2017 about this girl going off to Pakistan, marrying a boy from there, and had to be got back. Today, JP Singh is is the ambassador, Indian ambassador to Israel.
Oh
So
wow.
he's grown over a period of time, and I spoke with him yesterday, and he's so excited that this film is coming out. So it was tricky, Anuj, without really lengthening the answer. It was really tricky. It was difficult. I had Saurabh Sachdeva, who trained me in this space. So I did workshops with him for 3 weeks um, to get into the character. Before that, I read with the entire team.
Mhm.
After I did my workshops, I again read with the entire team. So honestly, I think shooting this film was 20% work, but 80% work was what happened before shooting this film.
Oh wow. Yeah, no, I think it's definitely really important. Since you mentioned Batan, I do want to congratulate you on that. I mean, I've not had a chance to actually properly, personally congratulate you, so I wanted to just express that first of all.
Thank you.
And also, I think when it comes to the characters that you play, especially when they're of very high importance, like for example, uh, Batla House, you had Parmanu, and now obviously the Diplomat. It's yeah, it's a very big responsibility that you're taking up on screen. These are not just characters you're playing essentially. And I think you've always given that due diligence to those characters as well.
Correct.
So I think for you, sort of when sort of understanding that social responsibility, John, what factors do you think have helped you to really understand that? Because I know how much you love India, and I think that's one thing that really connects us is the love
Yeah.
for the motherland.
Yeah.
But what really do you think really helps you to connect with these characters in the sense of its social responsibilities as well?
Yeah. Meet those people. Be honest with your story that you're telling. Uh, Take creative liberties only if you have to, if the film needs that crutch. If you can steer clear of that, do not take creative liberties. And the audience is not flippant. The audience understands when they see an honest story. They
Hmm.
see that the actors worked hard, the directors worked hard, the units worked hard, and we're trying to tell a good story.
Yes. And I think, when you got a director like Shivam, so from what I know of Shivam, and I think the film of his that I've seen actually was Ahista Ahista that he made like 20
Uh,
years ago, which I thought was a very well made film.
Very beautiful.
And I think the sort of tone that he has, it's very brooding, from what I remember. It's very brooding and I think he likes to use a lot of like bright colors, almost pastel colors in his films, where then they're very, they're not too indulgent in like heavy coloring or heavy lighting, to enhance the seriousness of the film. They're very like he likes to keep it very light, but also bring out the emotions a lot more. So I think having a director like that, and when you kind of, I mean, because you've worked with so many directors over the years, it's pretty amazing. But when you have directors like him, do you feel that also makes your work as an actor a bit easier? Because obviously, um, he obviously knows the sort of vision that he wants as a filmmaker.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm a director's actor, and you give me a director who does his homework well,
Yeah.
and it makes my work easier. So I'm grateful that I had him in this film. He's been researching the subject. He had been researching the subject for about uh, 3 or 4 years. So he knew exactly what he wanted out of his actor, out of all his actors, and out of the script.
Hmm. John, I find it really fascinating actually that we're seeing these really important sort of Indian migrant stories. Um like for example, we had like Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway in 2020,
Correct.
yeah, 2023. Then
I love that film. It was very nice.
too good. It was so
Yeah.
good. Obviously, there was also, I mean, I know people had whatever views, but they had Kerala Story. You had Ada Jeevitam, The Goat Life,
Yeah.
with Rajan.
All
And it,
very good films.
yes, and they all spoke about the almost the bleak lives of Indians living abroad. I think we've always been painted this whole NRI dream, this whole like almost this escapist sort of view on Indians living abroad away from their mother.
Yeah.
But these films really address that, and I think so does Diplomat as well to a major extent. Um, so why do you think we're suddenly seeing these films? Do you think it's in a way kind of subconsciously making us realize and look internally and make us accept internally? Because I feel, especially with Indians, we're still fighting that post-colonial hangover, and I feel like it's almost like we're trying to fight back in our way. So do you think these films are in a way fighting back that sort of external sort of forces that have tried to suppress us all these years?
You want an honest answer that's very undiplomatic, if I may say
Please,
so?
please, please.
Yeah, so I did The Diplomat honestly because I fell in love with the script, and that's the only reason why I did it. I didn't want to make a point here, make a statement here, but through the film, just like you said, we realized there's a responsibility about being honest to your story and about being true with your characters, and that's what we stuck to. There was no intent to, uh, you know, make people think about the Indians abroad, the sorry state of Indians abroad. No, nothing. This film was to keep you at the edge of your seat, make you feel entertained, and when you walk out, you say, "Whoa, That's a good story, and that is the only intent of the diplomat. Whether we succeed or no, I don't know. But Shivam Nair, I'd say, is the hero of this film. He's made a very honest attempt.
And another thing that one thing that I've always loved about you, John, as well, is that, see, even though now we're seeing you kind of like, take, be a lot more center stage in terms of bringing such stories. But you've always had very Indian roots and Indian sentiments actually in
Yeah,
films. Um,
yeah.
Even if I look back at, like, let's just say even a Dhoom, for example, right?
Can I just press the pause button? Anuj, no one knows this, but I'd like for you to know this. I do have Indian roots, but my from my father's side, my great grandfather came from Syria. And
Oh,
from my mother's side, my mother's father came from Iran.
oh, Suvache. अरे वाह.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And of course, my parents were born here in India, and I mean, there's no question, no one will question my Indianness and the fact that I'm so proud to be Indian. But yeah, I've got very interesting roots,
Yeah.
and I think it's a beautiful blend in a world that's becoming polarized.
Very, no, rightly said. And also you speak Gujarati also. And I was like,
मैंने गुजराती average बराबर ही थे मम्मी
I'm like,
पारसी
Gujarati
छड़े
ma વાત જ નથી કરી. And I'm just like, oh my God, Jane to average છે ને મેં Gujarati ma વાત જ નથી કરી. I'm like, what is going on, man? This is insane. No, but what when I meant to say the Indian roots, like, the Indian
yeah,
sentiment really reaches out to the audiences.
yeah,
They've always been very like based in that way.
yeah,
Like, even if you've done a film like Dhoom, for example, like Kabir, in a way, like he
yeah,
he was a very common person. Even Babul, which I think is also a very underrated work of yours.
yeah. Very
Um,
beautiful.
like, honestly, I feel like it was so rooted in that sense. So I think for you, John, one thing that I have seen over the years is that you are really rooted, and आप बहुत ज़मीन से जुड़े हुए हो, and I think the way you've definitely maintained that, I think honestly बहुत ही काबिले तारीफ है, and I think also God's grace as well for sure. So I think for you, especially over the years, how, because this industry, we know what this industry is like, John. Like, it's very difficult, isn't it, to sort of maintain your own whilst exterior forces are kind of forcing you to change yourself. How difficult has it been to actually uh stay the way you are and stay grounded and stay humble? And how do you think that's also maybe intrinsically helped you as an artist also grow and evolve over the years as well?
Yeah, I think my parents, my upbringing has kept me very rooted. I've said this in 1,000 interviews that I come from a very basic background and I treasure that. But I think the person I am also gets along with a lot of people. So, in an industry where you hear a lot about, a certain section of people getting opportunities, I must be honest with you that I was given my opportunities and I took them. And the ones that I didn't get, I created them and then I took them. So I think the industry has been really fair to me. It's been a beautiful journey. Yes, you have your ups and downs, but no complaints.
And again, another subliminal theme I've realized, which I think even maybe the Diplomat to an extent might also kind of touch on it, is that whole underdog spirit.
Yeah,
Um, like the sort of unwavering spirit, not allowing
yeah,
people to suppress you. Do you feel like you resonate with that a lot? Because I kind
yeah.
of see you as an underdog, if I'm honest.
Totally, Anuj. Totally. The one thing that you can't take away from me is the fight in me. You can't take that away from me. I will. No one can put me down. No one. No one who can claim to break me can break me. No one can put me down because I pull myself up. And my only support in this entire space, in this whole ecosystem that I work in, is my audience. My audience just somehow pushes me back up. It's like magic. It's like miraculous what they do to me. So it's amazing. So it's my sense of self conviction, you know, that has kept me going. I've been here for 21 years, 22 years. And I sometimes, as actors, as directors, as people, Anuj, even you, when
Hmm.
you're doing this interview, sometimes you have that self-doubt in your head when you're doing
Yeah.
an interview, when you're talking, or, am I asking the right questions? Am I looking good? How's the audience going to receive this interview? For example,
Hmm.
I don't think so much about that today. I've filtered those processes in my head, and that makes me what I am today.
Hmm. No, very true. Very, very true. Um, but I think what again, I guess following up a bit on what you might have said earlier as well, but that whole idea of self-assurance, do you think it just is that whole idea that, you've kind of grown up with honesty, and that whole because that really does have a lot of role to play, I think in our lives, the way we've
Yeah.
been brought up, the sort of value system that is inculcated into us. So do you think again it's that honesty, that sense of almost reality and not being delusional about things that really helps you to stay that way as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's my biggest advantage. And I also think, like I've said this in a couple of places recently, I think my other big advantage is my scarcity. That you don't see me anywhere and everywhere and you won't.
Hmm. And it's interesting, John, actually, like I don't feel people appreciate enough the way the role of women are in your films. And I don't just mean this in your recent films, I mean from the very beginning. We
Correct.
look,
Yeah.
we look at a film like Jism, right? And it's an erotic thriller, your first film.
Correct.
Yet it really, in a way, it's very how noble, I mean, for lack of better word, towards the, desire of women. I look at a film like Babu, like Water, Dhoom as well, and
Water is the perfect example. You're correct.
Water,
Veda, which released recently, The
Veda.
Diplomat. Yeah. There are a lot of films. It's about the women. It's about, yeah.
Yeah, you've always been this almost this supporting figure, of women where, they're not just reduced to just playing the love interest in any of the films you've done,
Yeah.
right? And I think is a very interesting discussion point because I've never really seen anyone actually appreciate that enough. And I really wanted to just know your sort of perspective on that because I just love the fact that you have such progressive stories. Like I remember even I think in the first Satyameva Jayate, you had a dialogue that says, no man now can ever say कि, oh, तुमने चूड़ियां पहन रखी है क्या? So it's like about shattering
Yeah.
that that misogyny and that patriarchy that's been going on for so long. What has really evoked these sentiments within you as an artist, and how important has it been also now because you obviously are a producer as well? So, in terms of when you highlight these things, how important is it for you to have that focus as well in your films?
So yeah, for one, you have to grow up in a family that's not really misogynistic. Your upbringing has to be such. In my
Yeah.
case, I was blessed with a father that gave a lot of power to my mother. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is you have to, like I say, regulate your inner self to do films that are more responsible. But saying that, very honestly, before I became a producer, I did not have control on things like that. Maybe subconsciously, I would recommend and tell the director, listen, we really don't need to be doing this. We need to be doing this. I'm not really comfortable with this. So, within your limited power, we would kind of exert a little influence. But the day I became a producer, and the day I felt I was established enough to give my voice, which I always did from the start,
Yes.
made sure that we're a little more responsible towards the kind of cinema we make. Saying that, Anuj, I'm not a flag bearer of morality. It's just my inner self that makes me do certain things in a certain way.
Hmm. But John, I think it's a very sad time for art, if I'm honest, because I feel like there's so many um people that have so many, like you said, polarized opinions, right, on art nowadays. Like Cole's, like for example, I've always realized one thing, that one person's reality is another's propaganda. That's always what I believe in. And I think the way cancel culture is now seeping into art, I think it's absolutely abhorrent. When I see a film like Animal, like Mrs., go through this absolute trial, media trial, even Kangana had Emergency, Anubhav Sinha had this AC-84. I feel it's so sad that art is going through this massive scrutiny. Um, how do you feel about the sort of cancel culture that happens with art nowadays? And how and the fact that you're very fearless. You don't For you, your art is important, and what you're trying to say through that character is always of
Yeah.
paramount. importance. So again, it's kind of similar to what I asked you about the industry also. But how difficult is that for you not to budge when you see so many social media dialogues taking place, and that to extreme ones as well?
Yeah. Um, so I don't see a lot of social media at all. So that's one very big plus point that I have, and I'm not condescending towards it. It's just a filter. So that's one part of it. But what I'm saying is that everybody is gonna right to their opinion on it. Um, I'm no one to dictate who's going to make an opinion, who's not going to make an opinion. And the one thing that I really am glad about is that I have a lot of respect for people, inside me. So there is no negativity that I kind of spew out, even in my conversations. I may have complaints about, I keep bringing up agents and actors needing to do certain things, but these are very practical things that
Hmm.
I think we need to do to control costs. But outside of that, I think we need to make this space far more positive.
You know,
And why I'm saying that is from the cancel culture question that you asked. That, why are we being cancelled? Why are we being judged? I mean, I have no problem with whatever's put out there. If an actor feels he needs to do it, a director feels that he needs to say his story, then he must, and he must be given the freedom to do so in a democratic setup.
No, I completely agree, and I just think that every art has a voice. It doesn't matter what your political leaning is. You've got to be open for understanding different perspectives. I feel लोग बातें ही नहीं करना चाहते, बस एक दूसरे को साथ scream या लड़ाई करना चाहते हैं, and that's where the buck ends, you know. And I just think that it doesn't work like that. That's not how democracy or like sort of the world works. And I just think it's
Anuj, you have to filter things out of your. I mean, if you really go down to it, and you know this, and I'll say this to your audience that's watching this, if you spend a lot of time on social media, okay, you are bound to you are bound to start feeling and falling sick because it's going to get inside of you. So you need to build your self-regulated filters and decide what you want to see, what you don't want to see. Like
hmm,
for me, I'm very clear that what do I really want to see? I want to see the geopolitics of what's happening with Israel and Hamas right now, or I want to see what's happening with Russia and Ukraine right now. How does that help me? That helps me because a diplomat is supposed to know what's happening in the world.
correct.
So maybe I don't say it, but my character knows whatever's going around in the world, and it shows in your performance. It shows in your character, and it's always important to get into the backstory of your character. So I'm learning every day. I'm trying to figure out new ways to be more effective.
Hmm,
And I have people along the way who help me with the same.
hmm. But every time a film that is made about an atrocity on India or something where India is trying to speak out against something brutal that's happened with them or its people, it's suddenly labeled as propaganda. I've heard the word jingoism being thrown around. It's like someone
Yeah.
learned the word and they're like using it like water anytime they go. And I find it very concerning, that that's happening. What do you think is the best response for creatives in such situations? Again, I know you mentioned this a bit as well in your response, but it's important because I feel like there's a lot of like I feel like these anti-India sentiments need to also realize that, silence is also we might be silent, but that silence is our dignity that we're maintaining and our class that we're maintaining. It's not our weakness. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah,
think,
I haven't seen a lot of the films that we've spoken about, though I'm very happy with their commercial success, let me tell you that.
yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
for me, like I said, it's a democratic setup. Anuj, you need to make the films you need to make. What's very important and down to business is if you get a studio to back it. That's most important. If people are criticizing, it's fine. I mean, you need to do your work. Your work can't stop. And I think our trade, let me tell you, they're very thick-skinned. They're very smart. They know how to circumvent any kind of criticism and put their head down. They're like horses with blinkers, and they go on with their work. So I have a lot of respect for a lot of people in our industry. So they just get down to do their work, and I think that's important. As long as you don't bow down to fear,
Hmm.
that's it. You
Yeah.
get what I'm saying? That's
Yeah,
it.
no, yeah. It's just basically you keep doing your work and let the exteriors do what they
Yeah.
need.
Just do your work and just concentrate on your work. You'll understand where you're wrong, where you're right, what you need to do. See,
Hmm.
I'm not an expert, Anuj. I'm sure you ask this question to many of your guests, and they have different perspectives and different answers for the same thing.
Hmm.
I'm not an expert, and I'm not qualified enough to tell you uh, why people should criticize and why people should not. I just believe that everybody's got a right to criticize. And audiences, they're paying their hard-earned money, they've got a right to criticize. And we just need to pull up our socks and we need to do good work. Now, whether we're being secular or being polarized, I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen many of the films that are supposedly propaganda films. I haven't seen them. All I know is that people who've seen them have loved them. They've
Yeah.
loved those films. Those films have done great business. And like I said, you have to have a self-regulator. And I have faith in our censor board. And I'm sure censor board sees sense in passing certain things and not passing certain things. So we've got that filter somewhere. So leave it to them, and then what's needed to come out will come out, and what's not needed to come out won't come out.
Rightly said. No, I agree. But John, it's interesting. So I was watching a few old interviews actually of yours,
Yeah,
Pehle Ki Baat, and I was like thinking the way I see you then and now, I think it's a remarkable how that innocence I feel like you've kind of maintained within you as an artist.
yeah,
I feel like even though I'm sure, I mean, I'm not sure how your journey has been in terms of internally within this industry, but you've maintained that innocence throughout your journey. I feel like you've become more resilient for sure.
yeah, totally. I think you've said it bang on. Thank you for noticing that, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, John, is how I think it would be nice to maybe talk about, I think, a bit about the difficulty side of things because I feel like, we don't really sort of speak about that enough, about how you've dealt with difficulties in this industry before you becoming like number one, the superstar that you are, and now like one of the finest producers as well of the industry as well. That we will get to eventually, but I want to talk about the most difficult part of your journey in this industry.
I think the most difficult time for me has also been the best time for me in the industry, because what's the most difficult time is when people question your art form, or people question your success, or people celebrate your failure, and people critique you. That's difficult, right? For anybody. If I'm looking at you and I start judging you for the way you look and for the way you're speaking, it's difficult.
Yeah.
So, and imagine maybe 20 million people or 20,000 people doing that to you. So that is difficult, but that's also the best time for me, because I took that as an opportunity. And I said, listen, there must be some sense in what people are saying, you know? And I try to work on those negatives to try and make it positive. The ones that are trying to hit you below your belt unnecessarily, you get it. You can't respond to anybody. I have a very, very, very famous and a very big and a very respected Parsi lawyer. And we were talking, and I said, Aspi, I feel for animals, and I feel for this, and I feel for that. And he's saying, John, don't spread yourself too thin. Just concentrate on one cause that you really bloody believe in and give it all you've got.
Hmm.
And I take that very, very seriously. So I have just a straight focus and a simple focus on doing what I need to do, what's good for society. There will be naysayers, and that's absolutely okay. You have to work around naysayers and continue with your work.
Hmm. Very true. But I think John, a really big concern. I think a lot of dialogues have been taking place a lot about the industry, and I love Hindi cinema. You know how much I love Hindi cinema. It's the best thing. But I think if there's one area that I think it can improve on in the sense where it goes back to its original roots, is I feel like the elitism. I feel like there's a lot of elitism. There's a lot of sense that, oh, if you don't fit this mold, then you'll suddenly be marginalized, or you'll suddenly be kind of ignored. And it then becomes a very difficult fight, right? Because when you got the entire system against you, um it's like, well, what do I do now? You're left on your own devices. But I think you've never let the system bog you down.
I mean, I'm talking from my personal experiences.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that. I haven't seen this. I'm an outsider, Anuj, and I've got my opportunities here in this industry. And I've never found elitism here. Is there been a struggle? Yeah, there's been a struggle, and you're as good as your struggle. So,
Right.
I don't think for me there is this conspiracy theory of, for me, I'm saying, of
Sure.
elitism. Yeah, I don't believe it exists. I believe that, uh, you know, a doctor's son becomes a doctor at the end of the day, an engineer's son becomes an engineer, an industrialist's son takes over the company at the end of the day. So why can't an actor's son get his chance or his or her shot at doing what their parents did? So I get that space, but to be to feel self-crucified about it and say, I didn't get my chance is not, and I'm the living example for it. I got Jism. It was my first film
Mm.
from the Bhatt family, which has all the actors, directors, producers in that one family, and I was the outsider. So I'm your best example of someone who's come from the outside. I got Dhoom from Yash Raj, where Aditya Chopra gave me the role of a lifetime.
Yes.
I got Dostana from Karan Johar, who could be accused of all this, and I believe he's not. I'll be honest with you, Anuj, because this could have easily see you're as I felt at that point of time, they could see no one else walk out of that water in yellow trunks except John Abraham. So you have to be good enough to do what you're doing in the moment and the kind of genre you're in. So I would not bow down to any conspiracy theory of elitism.
Right.
Uh, I hear about a lot of issues happening right now in the industry. But
Mm.
I'm just coming straight to the point, Anuj. I think the problem with our industry right now, and it is a problem,
Yes.
is a very simple problem. We just need to correct it. We
Mm.
need to create content. We need to tell good stories.
Mm.
If we tell good stories, half the battle, 90% of your battle will be won. And, even today, people are, I mean, I'm so happy. Like I said this in another interview, Chava's worked. We must celebrate. We must celebrate that it's done well. People are arguing about why it's done so well, but it's done well, my dear. It's done well. It's great. Celebrate its success and now move on. And let's hope many more films do well. So I'm one of those who believes that if you're good, you'll get your due. If you're professional enough, people are out there who will see what you really are doing. And it's as simple as that. Pathaan is the best case in point. I mean, I didn't have a film for the longest time, and Aditya Chopra gave me Pathaan, and it was the graciousness of Shahrukh being in that, and he was, and at the end of the day, all my information that during the making and the release of Pathaan that I got was only from Shah Rukh Khan.
Yeah.
So I think there's so much of camaraderie in amongst our actors, amongst our directors. And Anuj, I'm telling you the good side of the industry.
Sure.
They're we're all, and you meet without exception, you meet any actor on his day, they're all lovely, lovely people. All of them are lovely.
Very true. No, I
Actor as in male female actors, they're all lovely people, and so are most producers and directors. So, to answer your question, sorry, I just went
no no
roundabout.
no no
Uh,
no.
I'm not a believer in elitism. I am a believer in nothing succeeds like success, unfortunately. So, if you're successful and if you weren't great in that role, you keep getting a lot more. That's different. That's
Mm.
different. But that's got nothing to do with elitism.
Mm. No, thank you so much for clarifying that point. Honestly, I think
Mm.
it's really valuable to have that insight because I feel like, we hear a lot of things. I mean, obviously, I don't like to endorse in it, which is why I asked you very submissive because I think it's
Yeah,
important to address these things, especially on a platform like this. So
yeah,
को थोड़ा सा पता चले, they can understand.
yeah.
Friends, so thank you so much for that, John. That was really lovely. But I think also I'm really fascinated about one thing though. When as an actor, when you are playing a villain, for example,
Right.
when you play a hero, um, see, you have the director, you have the script at your disposal, you obviously have your craft as well. But I feel like there's also that factor of reference points because I feel like as an actor, you see, obviously, if you're playing a murderer, you can't have murdered someone, of course. But there has to be something उसके इर्द गिर्द जो एक sentiment होता है जिस पे आप निर्भर कर सकते हो. So, how do you deal with different sort of shades as an actor? Like, for example, say if you're playing a murderer, or if you're playing like a hero, would a similar sentiment be a common factor for you in both those cases, or would you have to delve a lot deeper in different scenarios?
Yeah, I think you've answered the question in your question. I think you have to dwell a lot deeper in spaces like that. But coming just down to brass tacks for our audience to know what I really enjoy the most,
Yes.
I enjoy playing negative. Like I love Manya Surve. I love my character Kabir in Dhoom. I love my character Sanjay Gupta. Great job in Zinda.
Yeah.
I've done, so I love Jim in Pathaan. Um, Even Kabir Lal, my character in Jism, was not really positive. He was a gray shades character. He wasn't
Yeah.
positive.
Yeah.
So everywhere I've played negative, I've really enjoyed the process. I've loved the process because sometimes I feel Anuj normal is boring. So it's good to do something a little off the cuff, and it kind of gives me a kick. And when you get opportunities like working with someone I deeply love and respect, like and adore, like Shahrukh, you have to make the most of that time you get with him because he's such a sweetheart. We have a tea in the middle of like this. We have a tea in the middle of the shots, and then when we go back to shoot, we go back to bashing each other up. So it's a beautiful relationship. So I think you dwell more into the character. You sit on the script and you ask questions as to why my character is such. If it's negative, do you need a reason or you're plain black?
Mm.
So these are things you really need to ask, and you need to, on a serious note, you really need to prepare before you get into it because the backstory that you have in your mind actually shows on your face to the audience.
Mm. Right, no, beautifully said. So I want to mention, by the way, I absolutely love the chemistry that you have with Deepika and with Priyanka. And I think the
Yeah,
chemistry you had with in Deepika, obviously the moments you had with her in Pathaan, in Desi Boys, and Priyanka in Dostana, of course. I think
yeah.
it's so beautiful. I hope you get to work with them again,
Oh,
honestly.
yeah. I'd really love to because not only are they good co-stars, they're very good people. They're both lovely, resilient, strong girls, and they're wonderful. They're wonderful. I've been lucky to have worked with them.
Right. Now, JA Entertainment, Don, I really am a big fan of the content. I've said this to you on countless
Thank you.
as
Yeah,
right? Like you know how much I genuinely admire because this sort of I think the work you've done is very I think if I may describe as hatke, it's
yeah,
very
yeah. That's the idea. That's the idea to do different stuff in J Entertainment.
yeah, it's very non-conformist and I really I love that. I think that's really great. But I think obviously ever since your humble beginnings as a producer and stuff, I think two-part question really. How do you feel like it's evolved over the years? Like if you could talk about its growth and the sort of content that you've put out, and also the fact that the characters you play, and I think it's really fascinating because in a way, when you're someone who is also now in a way sort of deciding what to green light in terms of projects,
Right.
do you feel like your choices as an actor would also be the same as a producer, or would it be slightly different? Is what I'm.
Very good question. It is one of the best questions that I mean, fantastic question. So I think my choices, unfortunately, my choices as an actor sometimes are different from my choices as a producer. If I have to act in a J Entertainment film, and when I am not a producer on certain films, I go horribly wrong. I go horribly, horribly wrong. But when I know that it's my content, and I'm sure other producers feel the same as well, I know it's curated, my content. I know I've done a lot of research on it. So I'm very, very excited to. So if I was any actor, but I'm John Abraham, I would feel very, very safe doing a film in J Entertainment because we research our stories. So be it Vicky Donor, be it Madras Cafe, be it Batla House, be it Parmanu, be it Attack, be it a Marathi film we did called Savita Damodar Paranspe, be a Malayalam film that I think was one of the most beautiful subjects. We went wrong, but it is called Mike. Beautiful subject, So we want to do research. We want to curate our subjects, and we want to give the audience something different. The trouble we are having right now is, even though I've given a wiki donor, and of course you never take away credit in all these to the directors that have made this happen. Shujit Sarkar deserves all the credit.
Yeah.
Nikhil Advani deserves all the credit. Abhishek Sharma deserves all the credit. So all our directors along the way are responsible for these successes. But for me to kind of push that process and be a catalyst, I need a studio to hold my hand and say, hey, listen, we'll back you. That bridge has to be kind of just covered.
Yes. And how do you intend on a follow-up to that, on intending to cover that bridge, so to speak? What do you think would be helpful for you in doing that?
Um, I think take a I'll take a nice begging bowl and I'll go outside the studio and I'll say, no, I don't know actually. I think it's I'll keep trying. I'll keep trying till someone sees a sense in my. So, for example, I've developed a story, and you're the first one to know. Uh, it's called Malakal, okay, and it's not a jingoistic like what we like you asked in your earlier question. It's not a jingoistic film, nothing, but it's about a bunch of soldiers
Hmm.
that were Indians, but that were part of the UN peacekeeping force that went
Wow.
to South Sudan, for example. Brilliant subject in the space of 13 hours, Secret Soldiers of Benghazi, in that space, a very Michael Bay-ish space, very commercial, very big. I'm hoping that we get a studio that sees sense in it. But I also know the minute I make three big announcements, I know that'll be greenlit.
Hmm.
But I hope that is greenlit not because of the three big announcements, but because of the subject that it is. So I'll keep trying. Yeah, however I get it is not important. The means to the end is not important. For me, the end is important. Once I get it, I'll go for it. And the beauty about J Entertainment is that I do not want all the films to be made with me. Like
Hmm.
I want films to be made with other actors, and I would wish I have approached other actors. Some of them have told me interesting. Some of them have told me not interested, and that's absolutely okay. I have no ego. I go and reach out to them again because they're lovely people. Like I said, Anush, they're beautiful people, and I reach out to these actors again and again and say, "Hey, what about this? What about this? What about this?" And that's my sense of security. That if I look out for myself, I'd like to look out for my own. And all these actors, even when they're watching an interview like this, there is something in there. They may be saying that, hey, listen, he's speaking for us. Yeah, we're all one. We should just hold on together. And that's what I want to do. I want to be the unifying factor for my industry. I want to hold everybody together, push everybody forward, and that's how we can grow.
I agree. No, I agree. And I think what's also really heartening to see is this whole pan-India movement that is happening. I think it's so wonderful that so many good films in South are being
But
made.
what's Pan India?
Pan India, like like basically it's no longer like a barrier now. Like for
Okay.
example, Salman is working in Sikandar, which is directed by A.R. Murgados, which has like Satya Raj and Rashmika Mandana. So two very good actors from the south. So even like Shah Rukh did Jawan also. So it's so wonderful that it's become a um
Yeah.
collaborative movement, I think. I
Yeah.
think, John, given your passion for India and your passion for the motherland, because I don't think actually we've not talked about that enough in this industry.
Yeah. I mean, I'm totally in love with.
Yeah,
I'm totally in love with India.
of
I
course.
love my. Yeah.
I
Like
know.
anybody should. Like anybody should.
It's basic. Like I think even I asked Sunny Deol this question, and I also I think even Javed ji in one of in a conference said it. It's like loving your mother, right? Like you don't need to एक
Yeah.
प्रमाण नहीं देना चाहिए कि आप कितना प्यार करते हो अपनी माता जी से, है ना?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it's one of those things where obviously like it's a very natural and instinctive thing. But anyways, come back to the Pan India movement that I was saying in terms of the films and collaborations. Um, you said that you've greenlit as well, been a part of a Malayalam film in that sense as a producer. Would you like to also headline a South film? Because I would love to see because you got Malayali roots as well.
My father's Mallu. My father's a Malayali.
Okay,
My mother's Zoroastrian.
right. So would you like to tap into those areas as well? Even a good,
You know,
oh my God, even a Gujarati film like John. Why
yeah,
can't we
yeah,
have a Gujarati movie?
yeah. The thing is, because I've grown up in Bombay, unfortunately, I don't speak Malayalam so well. I understand it a bit, but yeah, I mean, if I can do a special appearance, nothing like it. And honestly, you've heard this 1,000 times in your show, and when you watch, the best cinema in this country is being made in Malayalam cinema, hands down.
Yeah,
And the proud Mallu in me says, "Go for it, baby, Mallus, go for it." I think it's a great thing. I'm very proud of. I've got a bunch of Malayali writers, that are writing for me. So we've got a writer's room, like I mentioned again. I do very few interviews. So I mentioned it in a particular interview that I have a writer's room in Kerala,
Oh,
and,
nice.
and we are developing scripts from there that don't necessarily need to be made in Hindi. Could be made in Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Kannada, wherever the region it belongs from.
Hmm. It'll be really good. I really hope you do that. I think also going forward now, John, I think what would be your ethos going forward? I mean, after Diplomat, especially, in terms of really showcasing really public interest Indian stories, I would like to mention, as well as the human interest ones. And I think what else is in the pipeline that we can look forward to for me? And please don't give
Yeah.
me a diplomatic answer like saying, "Oh God, NDAs, yeah," because
No, no,
honest.
no, 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 Andy. I'll tell you what's in the pipeline. I have Tehran, which is a film that is very close to my heart.
Nice.
One of the most gripping films, produced by Dinu Vijayan,
Yes.
uh, who I have a lot of faith in as a producer. He's a fantastic producer, Maddox Films. So, and it's been directed by Arun Gopalan.
Hmm.
Uh, and my other co-producer is Sandeep Lazel, who's also done Batla House with me.
Right.
So Tehran has got that sense of credibility that I want to see in a film. Like it's hardcore. Uh, it's a political thriller, but more than a political thriller, it's a journey of this one man. So I had to learn Hebrew, I had to learn Farsi.
Wow.
Farsi, of course, I speak a bit because my mother's side we speak Farsi, so we I got a bit of that. But when you learn all these languages and in the present ecosystem with what's happening in Israel, Iran, with the Hezbollah, the Houthis, the Hamas, this subject is so relevant today, and that's my next release after the Diplomat. But the one thing that I'm really looking forward to doing, I mean, besides this, I haven't signed on anything, Anuj.
Okay.
So, I wish I could tell you things that, but I really haven't signed on anything. So I don't know what I'm going to be doing next. But like you see at the back here, that's the Isle of Man. That's
Oh,
the that's the circuit in the Isle of Man.
nice.
My Aprilia motorcycle. So I'm going to be doing a film on motorcycle racing. These are things I just want to do. I read every day, so you'll always see the shelf of those books there being changed every third day or every week because I read voraciously. I just read, 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 read. So I read a lot. I read like you'd be shocked. I read so much. So if I like chess, I read books on chess. If I like, you know, 20th century fiction, I read books on that. But I just read.
Hmm. And a quick update as well on your, because I know you're very, you feel very passionate about the welfare and safety of animals.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And honestly, I feel you. I feel you as well because honestly, like my cousin has a dog, and I remember when I was going through like peak depression after my university, that dog, I cannot tell you, like जो प्यार
Yeah.
आता है जब भी मैं जाता हूँ ना, he always will always want to play with me, and it was
Yeah.
the sort of unconditional love that animals give is unparalleled.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
how is things going on that front as well for you?
Not very great in terms of a country.
Hmm.
So I may love my country, but where you have to criticize, you have to criticize. I don't think we treat animals very well here.
No, I don't.
Because you're specifically talking about animals, so I'm answering that the question. I think we need stringent laws. We don't have those laws passed, and it's a really sorry state of affairs. So I just hope that they get to see a better life.
Well, perhaps you could make a film on this matter at some point, because maybe if you bring it to mainstream attention, maybe perhaps people thoda sa jaag jayenge.
You think so?
I mean, I don't know. I always believe art is a very powerful medium. And
Yeah, but I mean, we've seen some beautiful films like Charlie 777.
oh yeah, great film.
Beautiful, they're tearjerkers. But do you think things have changed in this country? I
Hmm.
don't think so.
Yeah, and I guess because obviously, like, see here in ITV, for example, we had a really good show about Postman, and the sort of scandal that happened, and how like basically innocent people were framed for fraud and all these things, but it was due to a computer system, and how like the people
Yeah,
in control knew it and still maintained silence. But because that series did really well, and there was so much conversation, it actually evoked conversations in Parliament, and then evoked more of an investigation into the matter.
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I guess it's different, isn't it? I guess UK and India, it's completely different countries, right?
Yeah, but I tell you in the same breath, I know there are a lot of actors, female, male. I know Shraddha Kapoor for a fact, Anushka Sharma, from whatever I've read, um, Jacqueline, Disha, Tiger, that's his name, Tiger. But I'm saying, oh, there are innumerable actors who love animals. So I think one day maybe I'll get them all together and we'll create that loud noise where we need for animals to be protected. Yeah,
Sure. Wow, John, I think this has
yeah,
been a very fascinating discussion. So thank you so much for joining me and being so generous. Honestly, I know you've been
yeah.
extremely busy with the promotions of the Diplomat.
No, no, I don't promote. I don't promote films because I believe um, a film a film can only be promoted if the film's good.
Yeah,
And that's the best form of promotion. So honestly, I tell you, so in film parlance, there's something called PNA, PNA, PNA. We keep talking about print and advertising, and I'm telling you this. My advertising. So print cost is the cost of the DCPs or whatever you send out, your
yeah.
prints to your different theaters. And
Mhm.
that's a fixed cost for whatever it's worth. It could be 2 crores, 3 crores, 4 crores, whatever. Your advertising cost can be your marketing cost, right? Your advertising cost can be 20, 30, 40 crores. I think in my firm, I think that advertising cost um, has not exceeded, it's less than 2 crores.
Wow.
So the point I'm trying to make is, yeah, the point I'm trying to make is that it's a conscious decision from my side to keep the costs low, so that we concentrate on what we're supposed to concentrate on, and that's the making of the film. Okay. Of course, you have to create some noise, you have to talk about it. That's the job of the studio, really, to bang it out there and digitally and to whoever the audience is, then they understand that better. But by me mindlessly doing 40,000 interviews, and I'm telling you, this interview too, Anuj, uh, is a catch up for us. It's lovely. It's lovely. I'm speaking to someone who's sensible, but at the same time, do you honestly feel that this interview will translate into sale of tickets? I don't know. I don't think so. My point I'm trying to make is,
Yeah,
you're as good as your film. That's it.
for
It's
sure.
it's as simple as that.
And I think it's also just to kind of just get the word out there. You know what I mean? And I think it's
Totally get you. So this is hygiene. This is great, and and for me, I honestly, when I love to chat, I chat. I don't look at it as a, a modus operandi or like an ulterior motive that this is gonna. No, it's not. I was happy chatting with you, and I stick to that, and it was a great conversation.
It was so lovely. Honestly,
Yeah,
I think that's why, like, even with you, John, like, I think it's been so wonderful. I still remember the first time we met for Pagalpanti.
yeah,
Shooting for what was it? Tum Par Hum Hai Atke Yaar. I think he was shooting for
oh,
that song, right,
yeah,
at that time,
yeah,
which
yeah,
now I now know. Obviously, back then I didn't know, but it was so lovely. Like, it was so wonderful. And I think just that warmth
fun.
that you displayed now, it's
Yeah.
honestly, John, very grateful. Really, really grateful. Seriously. So
No,
thank
we'll do many more things that are fun.
Definitely. By the way, you know what my dream is, by the way, is to work at JA Entertainment at some point. So I'm still manifesting that and leaving that to God. I was like, भगवान आपने बहुत कुछ दिया बस ये थोड़ा और अगर हो सके तो.
Ajay, come see the stuff you're doing. It's quite very interesting. You'll be amazed. Some good
I would
stuff.
love to. No, I would
Yeah,
absolutely love to. And
yeah.
you know how much I admire the work you do, John. And honestly, with God's grace, I'm sure you're going to continue to do some more excellent work in the future as well.
Thank you, Anuj. Thank you. Thank you. That's so sweet of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I
Thank you.
wish you the best with this.
Thank you, brother. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you for
Thank
always
you.
having me back. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Bye.